What's up, guys? Today we're going to be checking out a pair of MartinLogan BalancedForce 212s. Alright, to unbox this, I'm actually going to flip this over and open it from the bottom and then pull it off from the top. So I was definitely kind of excited to check this out, since I'm a big fan of the MartinLogan electrostat speakers. Typically, when you think about MartinLogan, I feel that you don't really think about their subwoofers. When you say MartinLogan, you kind of think about electrostats, you know? At least that's what I think about when I'm thinking about MartinLogan speakers. Well, like subs, you think about like REL or JL Audio or SVS, and not so much MartinLogan. But I ended up seeing these subs at one point in time at the Magnolia area in Best Buy, and it was definitely one of the better looking subs that was there. So I did reach out to MartinLogan to get one of these in for review. I actually got two of these in for review, so that is actually kind of heavy. And it looks like we have an accessories box here. Let's see what we get inside. Power cord. We get 4 spiked feet, 4 of those. Screw right to the bottom of the base. We have the owner's manual. That's a USB stick for some firmware updates. We have the smoked glass cover, which is used to cover the controls on the top of the subwoofer. That's pretty nice. That's real glass, not plexiglass, but that's real smoke glass. So this guy's pretty heavy. It weighs 140 pounds. It's got a nice little cloth covering. The bottom of this is pretty, feels like cast iron, but I think it's cast aluminum. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's got rubber feet on the bottom, which you can unscrew and put the spike feet in. But this is braced aluminum here on the bottom. It looks like cast iron, and it's really, really thick. So I feel like that's where a lot of the weight is coming from as well. See what kind of finish we got. We got with a black gloss finish. That's really nice. I'm not a big fan of gloss in the home theater, but the design of this does look pretty sweet. So design-wise, it is a trapezoidal shape, so it's a little bit thinner up front. It gets a little bit wider in the back. So I think it's 22.6 inches in the front, from left to right, then height-wise 22.6 inches, and in the back is 22.9 inches. So it's almost a perfect square. On the front here, nothing up front, just pure gloss. But on the sides, you do get dual 12-inch drivers. So I'm just gonna pull that off. Here is the grill. This is a magnetic grill, so it just sticks there to the side. And like I said, this is a dual 12-incher, dual opposed 12-incher, which pretty stiff. And the same thing on the other side. So that's pretty sweet. So the other, I've actually had, this is like my third sub this year that I've had, that's had dual pose drivers. I did the KF92, just recently the Arendal Sound Subwoofer 2V, and then this would be the third one. Actually, the KF one was the smallest one, had dual 9 inches in it, tiny little cube, but that thing went down to like single digits in my room. So definitely my favorite subwoofer that I had this year in 2020. All right, so on the back here, you have your USB input, which is used for like firmware updates. with the included USB stick. This is the PPK input, which is for the perfect bass kit. That's your 12-volt trigger. You got your multi-out, which is to link the subwoofers together if you have more than one. Your LFE input, your left and right RCA ins, speaker level inputs, these guys there. And then you have your XLR ins, that's the LFE, and that's the left and right. And of course you have your AC power in for the power cord. This does have dual 850 watt Class D amplifiers powering each of the 12-inch drivers. So that's a total of 3,400 watts. And on top, right on top here, we have the MartinLogan logo, which does illuminate. And then you can turn the illumination either on, you can dim it, or you can turn the illumination off. This does light up blue. This is the level control, which goes from 0 all the way to 11. You get a 25 hertz level adjustment as well. So this should be able to smooth out any kind of any peaks that you might have in your room to dial that in to get it nice and even sounding. So I'll have to play around with that. And then this is the low pass filter, which goes from 30 to 80 hertz. And here we have the phase knob, which have 4 settings for 0, 90, 180, and 270. And here we have the trigger. You can either keep the sub always on, trigger, or you can keep it off. And here is an interesting little feature, which we'll have to check out. This is the tone sweep. So I believe it goes from like 20 to 120 hertz. So it'll run that sweep from 20 to 120, and then you press it once, it runs through that sweep. That way you can listen for any kind of rattles that you might have in your room. So you press it once, it'll start going, then you can press it again, and then it should stop right at that frequency that you choose. So you can use that to find out, like if your windows are rattling or something like that, which is kind of a cool feature. Then this button is the Room EQ button. So after you run the equalization with the PBK, the perfect bass kit, you can turn that on or off there. And then the custom low pass, that is set for, if you have a MartinLogan speakers, you can pick a custom crossover, which is designed for that specific speaker, and you would turn that on and off here. So I guess if you don't have MartinLogan speakers, then that would not be of any use to you. You know, build quality wise, this is probably one of the nicest, if not the nicest subwoofer that I've had in here for a review. I'm gonna say it's probably tied with the Sonus Faber Gravis. That one also had a 12-inch driver, and it was also wrapped in leather. And this one doesn't have any leather on it, but it does have 2-inch 12s. And really nice, attractive, glossy finish. This thing is built like a concrete brick. Not the heaviest sub that I've had in here. I'm gonna have to say that would be the PV16, but this is 140 pounds. A little bit lighter, but still, I would get 2 people to bring this up the stairs or wheel this into your house. It does have the glossy top. It is a fingerprint magnet. It would have been cool if it was matte black, but still, really, really attractive looking subwoofer. An interesting design with the trapezoid. The subwoofer does have room correction built in, but you will have to get the perfect bass kit, which is an optional $100. Frequency response wise, this goes down to 18 to 120 hertz. So I would expect this to go down even lower once it's in my room and all set up. For setup, I'm going to hook up both subs to a Trinnov Altitude, and I'll be using a Kaleidoscape and a Zapiti media player for demos. They'll be placed in the front corners of my theater, and I'll be turning off any room correction in the processor and using only what's available on the subwoofers. Now this is totally optional, but the subwoofer does have ARC built in. It's an extra $119, which gives you the microphone and the stand. On this page you can specify how many measurement points you want to take. I've got a smallish room, so I'm going to keep it simple and keep it at 5. Once the measurements are done, it'll give you a summary of all the measurement points. In this section, you can make manual adjustments. You've got room gain up to plus 6 dB. Here you can bump up the low end. Adjust the room gain center frequency. And here you can boost the deep bass between 80 and 20 Hz. This section you can adjust the high frequency from 190 to 300 Hz. Here you can adjust the low frequency extension slope. You can have either a gentle roll-off or choose 16th for a steep one, or you can just keep it at flat. I'm going to keep everything at the default and go from there. In this section you can have a look at the measured response and the corrected curve. This will show you all 5 measured spots. And this red line here is the corrected measurements. This black line is the target curve, and the corrected curve with bass management is the brown line. Now all you have to do is upload the calibration to the subwoofer. First demo I dropped in was Fury on 4K. Since these have got 12-inch drivers in each one, I figured they've got to slam pretty hard, and this movie has got some of the punchiest bass I've heard. Up until now, my favorite subwoofer for sheer impact and speed are the Eskendo SM18s. I hadn't felt bass hit my brain so hard in my room before. And I gotta tell ya, these pair of MartinLogans gave me the same feeling. These were so tactile that every time one of those tanks would fire a shot, you'd automatically get a jolt to the body. I've had certain subwoofers deliver a similar percussive hit, but you might get a slight lingering trail whenever the subwoofer stops. If I remember those Eskendo subs correctly, I'd have to say the MartinLogans are slightly cleaner and faster sounding than those larger drivers, at least in my space. Now since these are really clean sounding, I wanted to see how they did for a musical, so I threw in The Greatest Showman next. If you haven't seen it, the beginning has this part where people stomp their feet. I believe it drops down to about 20 Hz. Not only does this nail the foot stomps with their chair-shaking authority, you also get a wave of low-frequency energy after each stomp. I can't play any musical demos without catching a copyright strike, but the subwoofers were crossed over at 60 Hz with my speakers. They complemented the BMWs perfectly and provided enough clean musical snap and low-end rumble, giving the score a huge cinematic presence. Now that we know these subs can handle music and can hit those 20 Hz notes with no problem, I had to throw in Kong Skull Island next. There's a scene where you can feel the choppers as they approach Kong, and the fight with the skull crawlers gets really intense. If you've seen this movie, or rather felt it, when one of the monsters takes a step, it should permeate throughout your room and make it feel like they're stomping on your floor. Those punches that Kong throws should feel like a punch to your gut. Now that chopper scene has one of those effects that creeps up on you. As the chopper blades start to spin, the subs will start slowly pressurizing the room with a whooshing sound. It made me feel like my light fixtures were going to drop out of the ceiling. These guys can move a lot of air in what I feel is a relatively smallish form factor.
Is that a monkey?
I gotta end the demos with the intro to Edge of Tomorrow. We all know this drops into some infrasonic levels, and has been known to destroy many subwoofers. So let's see how the MartinLogans do.
I'm not sure if we're even on the air.
The 212s did a respectable job. I got a little something down low, but nothing that tickled my skin. Still, there was a huge amount of output without sounding like they were going to self-destruct. There is enough bass here that should put a smile on anyone's face. As for frequency response, each one is spec'd to play down to 18 Hz. I measured both subs at my main listening position, and they play down to about 10 Hz. Both of these are crossed at 60 Hz with my main speakers, and they measured relatively flat from 60 down to 10. At the time of this video, a single BalancedForce 212 is selling for $4,500. I wouldn't call this a budget subwoofer by any means, but it also doesn't perform like a budget subwoofer, and it's definitely not built like a budget subwoofer. It's got a premium build, and it's got the most advanced room correction on board for a subwoofer in its class. From all the subwoofers I've heard in my theater, I'd have to say this is right at the top for sound quality, if not the top. It punches extremely hard for those tank-firing body blows, and it's the snappiest, cleanest sounding subwoofer to grace my system. If you find them a little too big for your space, they do have the smaller 210. That one has dual 10-inch drivers instead of 12s. If there is one thing that I didn't quite like about the 212, it's that it doesn't come in matte black. But that's just me being picky. Now, if you're looking for a new subwoofer that can pull off double duty for both music and movies, I think you should seriously consider checking out the BalancedForce 212s. These guys are super flexible as far as system integration, they hit hard, dig low, and do so in style. Well, those are my thoughts on the MartinLogan BalancedForce 212 subwoofers. If you'd like more information on them or like to pick them up, I'll leave some links for them down below in the video's description. So tell us your thoughts on the MartinLogan 212s. Have you heard them, and how do you think they compare to the competition? Leave a comment and let us know. As always guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like the video if you found it useful, and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you guys again in the next video.